Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Age-Wise Boston, sponsored by Central Boston Elder Services. I'm your host, Mike Kincaid, and I'm always glad you guys are here to hang out with us. You know, you guys have, we've done shows over the years about Alzheimer's, and today we've got a new guest, Dr. Bernard, who is with Mass General Hospital. Welcome, Bernard. I'm not going to call you doctor. I'm just going to call you Bernard. And what we want to talk about today is, well, we're going to start off from the bat. What is the difference between Alzheimer's? Let me double down on it. What's the difference between Alzheimer's, dementia, and memory loss? Because a lot of people, you know, they call it having a senior moment. What?
That's a very good question to start. And let me rephrase, because you directly associated Alzheimer's with dementia.
Ah, that's right, I did.
And those can be associated indeed, but those are two different things.
Yep.
Dementia is progressively losing your mind. It is not being able to cope with your daily life activity. Dementia means you need help from other people at your own place. And dementia is something a lot of people are afraid of, especially elderly, because with age, dementia becomes more frequent. You have more chance to become demented.
But now I've heard before that there's some types of dementia that are curable.
Indeed. Those are not the most frequent, unfortunately, but some form of dementia are curable. You might be demented because you have a brain tumor.
Okay, yeah.
And if we are able to remove the tumor and everything goes right, you might not be demented afterwards.
Okay, all right.
But among all the forms of dementia, among all the causes of dementia, the most frequent is Alzheimer's pathology.
Oh, right.
And unfortunately, so far, we don't have a cure for Alzheimer's disease. And so Alzheimer's, to me, it's a pathology. It's a brain pathology. It's lesions coming into your brain. And at the beginning of this disease, you just have no symptoms.
But wait. If it's a disease, do you have the disease if you have no symptoms?
It's a good question, and specialists do not all agree about the definition of what a disease is.
Because I mean,
that's why I used a different word at first. I said Alzheimer's pathology.
That's right, you did. That's right, okay.
But progressively, you will develop memory loss. And these memory loss are worrisome when they're due to Alzheimer's pathology because they most often evolve to dementia. But not all memory loss are due to Alzheimer's, and that's where it becomes very complicated because you can forget for many different reasons.
Well, everybody has gone into the kitchen to get something and stood there and went, what the heck did I come in here for?
Yeah.
That's memory loss.
That's one type of memory loss.
Huh, okay.
And another type of memory loss could be having forgotten what you did yesterday.
Oh, that happens. When you've got a really busy schedule.
It happens. But there are some details you shouldn't forget.
Yeah,
I hope tomorrow you will remember our interview from today.
I've got a really busy.
Yeah.
But I'm quite sure this will be on my mind.
I might call you tomorrow. If you have forgotten, I might
then
advise
there's a problem.
you. You should then go and see your doctor.
But you know what though? Let's use that as a perfect example. I've heard of so many people over the years who will complain. They'll say, "My mom says I never call her, and I just spoke to her on the phone the other day."
And that would be a very good reason to go and see her doctor.
Okay.
And you should probably go with her to relay this information that she's forgetting. Because one of the main problems we face with Alzheimer's disease in particular and with all memory loss is that if you forget, how can you be sure about what you...
How do you know what you forgot if you forgot it?
So you need someone to come with you to see a doctor.
All right, you brought up a good point. You know, I do some work with some of the neighborhood health centers here in Boston. And just as at my agency, everybody hears about HIPAA rules, which says the doctor cannot tell me, share information with me, you know, unless I'm a guardian and or have power of attorney. But it doesn't go both ways. I can share with the doctor my concerns are. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. All right. So, because I want to go back there, but let's go back to so we understand that, you know, dementia sounds like it's a bunch of it's a series of things.
It's a series of things, and the most frequent thing among those those things is Alzheimer's.
Okay.
It's pretty much, I would say, at least half of dementia are due to Alzheimer's.
Wow. Okay. All
So
right.
that's a very big issue.
that's a lot of folk.
Yeah.
All right, but you were saying earlier about one of the things I love about what you guys are doing at MGH is you're studying the disease before it shows symptoms, and that's why I say to you, if it doesn't show symptoms, first of all, if it doesn't show symptoms, how do I even get involved? Why, you see, I guess that's my question. If I have no symptoms, how would you find me?
So the way we find you and others is through research.
Okay.
So right now, when you have no symptoms, you can't go and see your own doctor. You could.
I could, but I wouldn't bring it up.
He won't make a referral to see a neurologist because your memory is working fine and you have no complaints about it.
Right.
But if you are interested and want to find out more, and that I think it's really important, we're doing research on what we call the preclinical stage of Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
Preclinical means you have no symptoms, but you might already have some pathology building up in your brain.
Okay.
Because there is a very long stage in which Alzheimer's lesions are coming up into the brain and the brain copes.
Right.
So it's not that you don't have pathology, but you're still working fine. The brain is working fine and you have no memory loss. And that stage can last 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. And that's a stage where we could do prevention.
But see, you just brought up a really good point. I'm assuming that if your body adapts, like such as, for example, high blood pressure.
Yeah.
You know, your blood vessels adapt to the pressure going up until it reaches a point of something's really when it doesn't. So if there's a little bit of a glitch in your brain, your body's going to adapt to it.
Yeah.
And until it doesn't. But again, my question. All right, if I'm out there.
My point is that at the point where it doesn't, it's probably too late to cure the disease.
I agree.
Like repairing the brain is maybe a very ambitious project, but that's not very realistic right now. In the coming years, we're not going to be able to repair a brain that has been destroyed by Alzheimer's pathology. But what we hope being able to do is to prevent the brain from being destroyed by Alzheimer's lesions before
it's starting to.
Before the damage has been done. That's precisely what we want to do. And for doing this, we need a lot of research. And we need research on individuals that are getting older, that have no memory problems, but that show some sign of Alzheimer's pathology. And those signs can be detected now through brain imaging.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Tell me some of the signs that people should be looking for. And you gotta understand that what's about to come out of your mouth right now, someone watching this is gonna go, "Oh my God, that's me!" So, what are some of the signs somebody should be looking for?
So, going back to what we just said, Alzheimer's has two definitions: the clinical definition, the dementia, the memory loss, and then the pathology. The pathology is two proteins. They have barbaric nouns, never mind, but coming into your brain. For a century of research, those two definitions couldn't be matched because we could see the brain lesions, but only after death, and we could see the memory loss, but only before death. For the past decade, we're now able, through brain imaging, to see these lesions in vivo. And so,
What's vivo?
during life,
Okay.
I could go to MGH and having a scan to see if I have Alzheimer's pathology in my brain.
Okay.
You could do the same. Anyone could do the same. You could do the same within a research protocol. That is not medicine. That is not clinical work. Your primary care physician can't refer you for that if you have no memory problem. But within clinical trials, we're testing this in all the people, and especially all the people that are more at risk of having Alzheimer's pathology. And if we see Alzheimer's pathology, and we will see over 65, it's about 20 to 30% of individuals that have Alzheimer's pathology into their brain without having symptoms, we can try to remove it. We can try to prevent Alzheimer's, the clinical symptoms, the memory loss to occur.
Now, you said folks over 65. What age would someone want? What age can someone get involved in these clinical trials?
So right now, it is over 65, but try to get earlier and earlier.
Okay.
We have currently a very small trial between 50 and 65. We know
Wow.
that the frequency of Alzheimer's pathology is really increasing with age. So at age 50, it's very rare. It's probably 1% of the population. But every 5 years,
The odds go up.
the odds are going up. And when you're over 80, it's probably half of us who have Alzheimer's pathology in their brain.
Now, you never answered the question, what would be some symptoms somebody would be looking for? And let me rephrase the question, because you yourself said it helps to have somebody, an independent person.
Yeah.
So what would be the symptoms that a husband, a child, a partner, a wife would be looking for? Because one of the things I've noticed over the years in working with families is they saw the symptoms, but because it wasn't anything major, they just simply said, oh, that's weird, and they kept moving on.
So I start by using a technical term. It's an episodic memory loss. And what is episodic
Yeah, tell me
memory?
about you.
It's forgetting episodes. It's forgetting what you have lived in the recent past, what you have done yesterday, a week ago. It's forgetting what you are living.
Short-term
Not
stuff.
right, no. I wouldn't say short term, because short term is what we're living right now.
That's a good
What
point.
I've said 5 seconds ago, I would remember.
Right.
But what has happened even a couple of hours ago, you need to remember this, and in early Alzheimer's disease, you don't.
Oh.
It's like if you were writing a book and it's deleting at the same time, you didn't save. So you can read when it's on your screen, like in the 5 minutes ago.
Right.
But once it's gone for good.
You never
You
wrote
can't
it.
retrieve it.
Okay.
But the document that we saved 20 years ago, they're still there.
They're still there.
So you can say what you did for your wedding day, but you can't remember what you did for last Christmas.
Okay. Okay. So it's that little bit of a glitch
Yeah.
of and how would someone notice that?
Just to come back to this last example I used, last Christmas. Someone with very early Alzheimer's disease will be able to say, oh, last Christmas, I did the usual. You know, I ate the turkey. And I went to my
Church.
sister or to church.
Right.
And all these things are maybe true, maybe not, because he's going to use what he has done over the 20 past Christmas to tell you what has happened over this last Christmas. But if there are any specifics that were specifics to this year, you won't remember, because the episode wasn't encoded. This lifetime isn't remembered. It's lost.
It never happened.
It never happened to him.
But the one thing I've learned over the years of getting to know people who are living with Alzheimer's disease and their families that had to deal with what was happening was they're really good in early stage. They're really good at faking it.
It is true.
So that goes back to how are you able to notice the symptoms if the person comes up with what you think is a good explanation about why they can't remember what they had for breakfast yesterday? And that's a tough question, and I realize
It's a really tough question, and that's where the relative comes really into play to me, because, you know, we all living together with other relatives, families, daughters, sons, neighbors.
And we all have our own lives. And
we're all forgetting, but at some point, someone is forgetting more than he should.
There you go.
And relatives notice that they systematically remember some details that someone else systematically don't. And that's not normal. That's something that is happening. And when that's happening, this person should go and see his doctor. And this relative should go with him.
And I think that's key. You know, Bernard, we've been talking, and I don't want to forget this. If folks watching or listening on the radio want more information about the research that we've been talking about, or just what's going on at MGH in general, how would they find out?
So they can find out any doctor through email. We have all emails on the website of MGH. And then we also have some very good, nice people working at the Alzheimer's Association that they can go and see. And we have this wonderful outreach corps at Mass General Hospital who is like giving more information to all the community and individuals that are interested in Alzheimer's disease. And they should really come and see us because we have research and we are interested in trying to find out what's happening in the brain of elderly people that explain progressive memory loss.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot. What if they want to ask you a question? Could they email you?
Of course they can.
Well, what would your email address be?
It's B for Bernard, and then my last name, which is quite complicated, as I'm coming from Belgium, it's Hanseeuw, Hanseeuw, at mgh.harvard.edu.
All righty. And by the way, if they want to call the Alzheimer's Association, they can call 617-868-6718. That's for the helpline.
Thank you. I would have forgotten this number. That is not Alzheimer's disease.
So that's just years of practice. All right, so let's go to the next level. So you've discovered that your loved one is having episodes.
Yep.
You make an appointment with their primary care physician. You go with them. You share with them your concerns. What happens next?
So the primary care physician will probably do some short test of memory to check if there is a concern or not. If he finds out that not everything is normal, maybe not worrisome enough to really worry, what he should really do is referring you to a neurologist, to someone who is specialized in early Alzheimer's diagnosis. And at the memory clinic, we have the ability to really go into depth in the memory abilities of someone, and then we also have some exams that can be done, can be brain imaging, can be other examinations, labs that will help find out if this is early Alzheimer's disease or if it's something else.
Now, off camera, we were having the conversation about if there's no cure for Alzheimer's, why should I get an early diagnosis? Before I'm showing symptoms.
So I can give you 2 or 3 reasons. The first and most important to me is research. If you never do research, we will never have a cure.
That's true.
And the most important hope to getting a cure is to getting prevention. Prevention means getting early. It means stopping the disease before it has done too much damage. The second reason why I would like to have a diagnosis is because it can help plan your life, knowing about your condition, understanding what's happening in your life, because when you have memory loss, that's something that is annoying older people, and they don't understand themselves.
But see, and I agree with you. The folks I know, and my grandmother in particular, they all thought they were losing their minds. They thought they were going crazy.
They're not.
But that's the point. They're not going crazy. They've just got this thing called Alzheimer's. So it sounds like what you're saying, getting a diagnosis answers that question.
Exactly. It's telling you, your family, the one you care about, I'm not crazy. There's something happening in my brain which makes me forgetful. And I'm forgetting things that are happening, but I'm still myself. I'm still who I was. It's not because I don't remember some stuff that are happening that I'm getting crazy. Another important reason for getting diagnosed is that maybe you want to plan your future. If you're still working, knowing how long you can still do your work, if you're worried about doing mistakes, if you should maybe stop working, if you should maybe plan the where you're living, how you would like to be cared about, if you would need help. So all this stuff are really important also because getting a diagnosis comes with a prognosis. I mean by prognosis, how is this memory loss going to evolve over time?
Oh, that's a good point.
And it's not quite the same if I'm telling you, this memory loss, yeah, it's annoying, but most probably it's going to stay stable.
Which is a lie. It's because it's not, if it's Alzheimer's, we know it's not going to stay.
We know in Alzheimer's, but maybe it's not Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
Your question was, why should I find out if it's Alzheimer's?
Okay.
Because if it is Alzheimer's, it's going to evolve. It is true. But if it's not Alzheimer's, it might evolve. It depends what it is.
but at least you know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, one of
That's what a neurologist and a memory clinic can bring. It's a specific diagnosis, not only a name of a disease, but a lot of information that are important.
That's a good point.
For you and your family.
That is, you know, one of the most frustrating diagnoses I've heard about over the years, and I've heard it way too many times, is that the person went to see their physician, who was not a neurologist, and was told, you just have a mild case of dementia, don't worry about it. You have no idea how many times I've heard that story from so many different people. And to me, I always relate that to, that's like being told you're just slightly pregnant, don't worry about it and come back in 6 months. You know, it's like, that's not an answer.
That's not an
answer. That's a cop-out.
I agree.
So,
but again, a lot of progress has been done over the past 20 years in Alzheimer's research.
Okay.
And especially in terms of diagnosis and prognosis, that's where we have reached a level that is completely different from what it was 20 years ago. We're now able to have accurate diagnosis. We can tell you, this is Alzheimer's disease, this is an early form, this is likely to progress. Or we can tell you, no, this is not Alzheimer's disease. This is, for instance, vascular cognitive impairment. It can be that your vessels are having troubles, and that's giving you some memory loss. It could be other forms of neurodegenerative disease, like frontotemporal dementia is something that we don't speak a lot about because it's not very frequent.
Right,
it's much less frequent than Alzheimer's disease, but that might also explain why you have some cognitive symptoms. And the prognosis is really different, and the symptoms are different than in Alzheimer's disease.
But we only hear about, for example, the average person had no clue what Lewy body's disease was until Robin Williams took his life. You know, and then they didn't even really do, in my humble opinion, a good job explaining to folks what was the difference between Lewy body's disease and Alzheimer's disease.
It is different.
Yes.
We can go over this.
That's going to be another show. That's another show.
But the point is, it's really important to go and see your doctor. And if your doctor can refer you to a neurologist, if the concern is really real, to get a diagnosis, to know if it is Alzheimer's disease, which might be the case, or another form of cognitive impairment.
So by getting that, from what I'm hearing from you, by getting the answer to the question, what's wrong?
Yeah.
It also gives you options.
Yeah.
Not just the person who has it, but the family.
Indeed.
I mean, we've done multiple shows over the years of planning for the future, estate planning, and things like that. But I got to ask you a question because we're just
also research.
And I was getting ready to go there. You stole it out of me. We're just about done. So, Bernard, if there's one thing, first of all, real quick, if folks want to find out more about this, how do they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me by email, hanseeuw@mgh.harvard.edu, and they can ask any question. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer question. And they can also go to the MGH Outreach Center, the Mass General Hospital. They have a lot of information about research, about clinical trials, and the Alzheimer's Association.
Which is at 617-868-6718. Ask for the helpline. Tell them Mike sent you. All right, Bernard, 30 seconds. If there's one thing you want folks to remember about this conversation, if they don't remember anything else, and that's a no pun, if they don't remember anything else about what we were talking about, what's that one thing you want them to remember?
If you're worried about the memory of one of your relatives, please go and see with him or her his primary care physician, and then tell him about it. Tell him you are concerned and that he should test the memory, and if he's also worried, make a referral to a memory clinic.
Excellent. Bernard,
Thank you very much.
You'll be back. My quick wrap up is, first of all, thanks for hanging out. If you're listening, or if you would like to go listen to this show, it airs on WBCA 102.9 FM on Tuesdays from 6:30 p.m. to 7 o'clock. My quick wrap up is, Bernard brought up a good point. You want to find out if there's something wrong as early as you can find out. A, find out what is wrong, but B, also so that you can get an opportunity to smell your roses. Everybody has a bucket list. Wouldn't you like to have enough time to start crossing that stuff off? My name is Mike Kincaid. That was Bernard. He'll be back. This is Age-Wise Boston. Thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. I'll see you around the neighborhood. Take care. Bye-bye.